Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, the African Bird Club and the BOC for the invitation. And thank you for the Natural History Museum for this hosting as well. I've been to, first time in my life, to ABC meetings last year. And I'd like to thank Keith again for giving me 5 minutes out of the program talk about Libya in general and about the Atlas, which is issued in 2011, sorry. And the Atlas is available for free for everybody who wants a copy and to read about anything about Libya in terms of birds. So please contact me and I will send it to you for free as a PDF file. Libyan lesser crested tern is a Mediterranean breeding population of the lesser crested terns. And as Keith said, it is away from most of the large aggregations of lesser crested terns found in the Red Sea all the way to Indian continent and the Australian continent. So I will talk today before the start of my PhD and then after briefly what results I got so far. So we will talk about history of the discovery of this species in Libya and what breeding sites or what population sizes are there. And then I will talk about some results on feeding and breeding phenology of the species, in addition to breeding success and ringing and in future work, hopefully. So everything starts with history. Edgardo Montoni, who used to be the chair of Italian Ornithological Association, has discovered this population in the island of Gara, which is located at the middle of the Gulf of Sirte in 1938, sorry. And he published this first detailed report about it in the Italian Journal of Ornithology. Everything getting silent in Libya until 1994, when Menninger and some other Libyan colleagues have visited the same site and rediscovered that the site is still hosting the lesser crested tern very successfully. And thanks to the location of that site as a remote small island offshore, not used by locals at the time. And then from 2006, I was part of a collaboration program between the Environment General Authority, where I work, with the United Nations Environment Program in Tunisia, the Regional Activity Center for Specially Protected Area, because since 2003, this species was put in the list of species protected by a Mediterranean Action Plan for seabirds. So we have issued several technical reports showing the results of our visits to the site between 2006 and 2008, including the first ever start of ringing the species in Libya. And thanks for the collaboration with BirdLife Malta and the Institute for Fauna Selvatica in Italy, who provided the metal and plastic rings to us, because we don't have a ringing scheme yet. And then in 2009, I started my PhD here in the UK. This is the island of Gara. It's a very fantastic place for the species, and it is located, as you see here, number one, at the middle of the Gulf of Sirte. It is a small island, about 7 meters above sea level, and a total area of 4 hectares. The colony is always in the top of the island, with other breeding species at the bottom of the island, mainly the Mediterranean shags, but also at the top of the island before the start of the breeding season in June, between late April and late June and mid-June, the yellow-legged gull is breeding on this island as well. The other 2 sites were added. This site, the site of Elba, were added in 1994 by Menninger and others, and they're still hosting a small population of the species. But since 2007, we have discovered a new site at the middle of the city of Benghazi, which is called the island of islet of Juliana, a very small island in the middle of a lake, a brackish water lake, at the middle of the center of Benghazi. The breeding population varied through the years, and actually some of these numbers are estimates, until 2006, when we started systematically census the breeding population. So in 1937, Moltoni said that it might be, estimated the size at 1,000 breeding bears. And this have reached now 2,000 breeding bears. The island of Ulba, or Ilba, is hosting a small population, but most importantly is the island of Juliana in the middle of Benghazi town. We will speak later about the fluctuation of, actually here. So this is the graph showing the growth at the island of Elba, island of Gara, sorry, the first site. And you could see that it is a steady growing, but in a very not steep manner. And the dotted areas is that we don't know anything about it during those years because there is no monitoring of the island, of the population there. Here we see the fluctuation pattern at the island of Elba, because mainly when we started in 2006, this is one of the bad sides of conservation in Libya. Whenever you visit a site and you talk to locals and you are coming here for a bird, so they ask you, you're coming all the way from Tripoli, 2,000 kilometers, to see a bird here. What bird is? So the fisherman who takes you to the island will have almost all the information without you're willing to protect the information. And then the next day he will talk back to the other fishermen, and the fishermen will talk to their families and everything. So I think one of our bad mistakes is that we showed up that we are coming for birds and we have binoculars and everything. And because of that, in these following years, we have seen some visits to the sites which are not protected. And people are curious to see what is this, and even there were some takes of the nestlings with them to the mainland. Here also in the site of Juliana and Benghazi, in 2005 actually, it was suspected that the site is hosting a breeding population, but it was not confirmed until 2006. And this steep increase of population site was thanks to the revolution in Libya, because the site was not visited, and it was surrounded by, it was supposed to be in 2011 to start a construction project at that site. They will dump the whole lake, and then they will build 2 towers and a water park and everything. We struggled a lot during 2010 to stop that, but it was out of our hands, and it was done by a company, was on the news, a Canadian company was on the news several times, linked to Gaddafi family. So since 2011, the site was, because the company has surrounded the site with a fence, so there is no public access to the place. And the Terns found it very comfortable to stay. And during 2011, it was flourishing. During 2012, when I went back last year, there were even a breeding on the coasts of that lake, not only in the middle, because the Terns feel very secure to do so. This is not going to continue, I think. So I will speak now about the, as any other Tern species, the food is the driving force for the population success. And we have the story here in the Shetlands of the Terns decline because of the food shortage or sandeel fisheries population decline, which is linked to the performance of breeding of these species. We don't know that much about the food from the reports published before. Menninger was the only who mentioned that there is maximum of 7 species at both sites he visited that used as diet, mainly the sardines and the European anchovies and some other sparrowed fish. But I wanted to go in detail to see how much diverse is the food of these population. So I wanted to know what prey species and what importance in terms of frequency and mass, and how similar the food used at these 3 sites. And also, is there a trend of using larger fish throughout the commencement of provisioning periods or throughout the season? Is the size of the fish is increasing, pick it up by the adult terns to feed their nestlings? So most of the food study is based on regurgitations from the nestlings. When we ring them, they regurgitate, and then we collect them, the samples during that. So between 2009 and 2012, I've collected around 500 samples of fish, mainly regurgitations, and then total length and weight were estimated either by direct weighting or by reconstituted weight by specific equations. And this is the list so far of lesser crested tern in Libya, the list of food items that used by, or prey items used by the species. You can see here that most of these are all fish species except one cephalopod, the European squid, sorry. And about 422 diet samples were included in this analysis of 27 species of fish. So this adding about 20 species, new species to the list of diet of lesser crested terns in Libya. And most of these are schooling fish, and this gives us the indication of the behavioral feeding ecology of the species in a very oligotrophic conditions of the Mediterranean, attacking only patches of schooling fish to use as a food. And this is this graph are showing the index of relative importance. It is a special index that combines both the biomass and the frequency of this species in one parameter, showing that in the island of Gara, for instance, the most important species is Sardinella aurita, the round sardines, followed by the Mediterranean fly fish, and the others are less important. And then in the island of Elba, we find the Mediterranean flying fish to be the most important fish species for the terns at that site, but with other species with less important. Interestingly, in the island of Giliana, this is only in 2012 data, that we see that a very diverse food list, prey list in this site include about 18 species of fish have been used here, and one of them is Lithognathus moremus, which is a spirit fish, followed by Libophrase. It is a very isolated solitary species, but during these months of May to June, this species became active and became gregarious, so that it's easy to attack in the coastal waters of Benghazi. And how similar is the foods between the sites? So in the island of Gara, we find the round sardine and Mediterranean fly fish representing about 47% of the similarities with other sites. In the island of Elba, 55% of the similarities was caused by Mediterranean fly fish and the blackbird half-beak, which is an invasive species from the Red Sea, which became commercially fished in Libya now. And on the island of Giliana and Benghazi, based on 2 seasons only, 51% of the similarities were caused by round sardine and the European anchovy. So this was done by an analysis called SIMBA, which is similarity percentage analysis to compare the similarities of prey list species between the sites. Analysis of similarity showed that there is more variation between the sites than within the sites themselves. So there is a variation between the sites, and that means that the terns are using different species at different sites. which means that this will have some conservation values to protect the food items or the prey species around these sites in the future, especially when we see that most of these important fish species are commercially utilized. During the breeding season, I was able to collect fish samples from middle and late provisioning period. So I divided the provisioning period of the chicks to 3 phases: early, which is about the first week or the first 10 days of the after hatching, and then the middle and the late. The late will be nearly the fledgling period of the chicks. And here from this graph, we see that the total length of species is increasing. So this is maybe not easy to interpret, but this is when I started in 2008, before coming here, starting collecting fish, the mean fish total length was about 80 millimeter during the late. And then the next year, during the middle provisioning period, it started from about 55. So there is a trend of increasing the size. Is this trend because of the fish spawning around the breeding sites is growing up, or because of active selection? We don't know yet. So is it the adult terns are picking up a growing larger prey because of the increasing dietary requirements of their chicks, or this is just a reflection of the natural growth of fish population size around the breeding sites? I found also that the breeding success in these species is very linked to prey diversity, where sites with a high number of sites of high Shannon index or prey diversity is high, you expect that breeding success would be high because of diverse food. And this, I found a very strong correlation between the breeding success or breeding productivity and the prey diversity index. The breeding success of different colonies here, showing the study period only, because before that we don't know anything about the breeding success or productivity of the species. So about in 2009 in Gara, about 0.55 chicks have been produced by a breeding bear, and this increased to about 0.7 in 2010. But in the other sites, the situation is a bit different. The island of Gara, which is hosting the most of the population, thankfully is not very disturbed so far by locals because of its location, but it is vulnerable to oil pollution. We'll speak about this a bit later. But the island of Juliana, you see in 2009 and 2010, it was very disturbed by the municipal works of that project because they dried out the lake, which gives access to some stray dogs to predate the whole colony of 140, about 140 clutches have been predated. In 2010, the works of that company prevented me as an official in the Libyan government to enter to that site. So I cannot enter that site until late in the season. And I found that because of their works, also the stray dogs have been predating most of the colony because they're given access through the drying out of that lake. In 2012, after the company thankfully left and the project suspended, the water of the rainy season in 2012 was very good, so the lake became back as a proper lake, and then the chicks were survived. In the island of Elba, the other site discovered by Menninger, we see that the breeding success or productivity was a bit stable in that site. And I will speak later about a new site, which is called Island of Fetha, or the Flat Island, nearby this island, where because of disturbance in 2012, a group of, or part of that population in Elba migrated or moved to the site of Fetha. And then when we started visiting the site 2 times, the 3rd time, our fisherman unfortunately told his cousins that there is a very critical bird and somebody coming all the way from the UK to study it. So they, unfortunately, some unofficial visits have collected the about 15 clutches, nestlings produced at that site, and they use them for trapping falcons. So this is the conservation in Libya. A trend of why these birds are coming all the way, leaving all the way behind several islands in the Mediterranean and breeding in Libya. I think by layering several factors together, the arrival of the species, the first birds came to Libya in mid-May, or the last 3rd of May, and then they leave at the end of September to West Africa. And if we, when I studied this feeding ecology of the species, I found that most of the spawning season of the main prey species of fish coincide with the arrival of the species. And also, I think this was linked also to the sea surface temperature and productivity levels around the breeding sites. So there is a sudden increase at the end of April, start of May, in the sea surface temperature, which leads to more productive waters in terms of phytoplanktons. And this invites most of these fish species to start the spawning season, and then we will have our terns coming to find their food ready around the breeding sites. So it's a very interlinked relationship between physical and biological factors controlling the timing of arrival of lesser crested terns to the site. As I said, we started in 2006 a ringing program. It's not running every year, and it's largely a volunteer program, not funded by anybody except the staff time from the Environment Authority, but also thanks to many European and Tunisian ornithologists who helped us to set up this base of, I call them unlicensed BTO ringers, because we don't have, they don't have a chance to have a long-term training here to get a license, but they got hands-on ringing by some very experienced friends. You can see there Joe Sultana, the former chair of BirdLife Malta. He was very crucial to starting up the ringing program, and he donated, BirdLife Malta donated the meter rings. And also Nicola Baccetti is not appearing in the pictures, but he was from Italy, and he donated, his institute donated the BVC plastic rings as well. So far we have ringed about 1,353 chicks, and happily we have seen about 20, we have received reports from West Africa, from Morocco, from southern Spain, and even from inside Libya about sightings of migrating lesser crested terns. And this year I have seen 14, about this year, in 2012, last year, sorry, in 2012, we have seen 10 ringed terns coming back to Benghazi to breed. So those terns have been ringed in 2007 and 2008 and 2009. And also, I have seen at Benghazi site, at the middle site, 1 tern from Gara colony. So this indicates, we are not sure, but if there is any movement between the colonies, this will need more monitoring and ring reading in the future. But also we need desperately some data on West Africa, because this species in West Africa is getting mixed with thousands or hundreds of thousands of other terns, especially the sandwich terns, and then they get underestimated every time in the reports of censuses in West Africa. And also we don't know that much about the habitat use in West Africa, because the protection of breeding grounds doesn't guarantee the protection of the species, because the species is spending only 2 to 3 months in the breeding grounds, but it spends the other 10 months in West Africa. I spoke earlier about the site rehabilitation in Benghazi. During 2012, thanks to the PIM, which is a small Mediterranean island fund by the Ministry of Environment in France, they gave us a little money to do some site rehabilitation of that island. So that's the photo upstairs. So not upstairs, sorry for my language. The photo up is an image of the site in 2009, but this one is in 2012. And you can see here this is the island of Giliana. It is only about 60 meters long, and this is hosting about 200 pairs of the species. And in 2012, as I said, this little formation here hosted in this horn, small horn, another 400 pairs of 400 individuals breeding as well. So in total, the site, because of the protection and because of the people are in this area near the court of Benghazi, nobody is visiting this area during the revolution. This site have hosted double or triple the used population of the last years. We don't know if this is because of something happened wrong in the main site in Gara, because we cannot get there in 2012 because of security problems. But the breeding success in this site in 2012 was very exceptional, up to 0.60 chicks per breeding bear. I'm finishing. This is the island of Fitha I spoke about earlier, and it is a very flat island at the Gulf of Mumba. It's about 6 hectares and only 1 meter from the sea level. So in any high waves, it can reach this high waves from the north. It can reach this salt marsh and inundate the whole island. So it's another not very good site for breeding. But because terns have been disturbed at the nearby site, they have moved to this site. But still, human disturbance is an issue in this species. The threats mainly is split here between the breeding sites and the West African, North-West African wintering sites. So the usual seabird threatening is applied here. Overexploitation of resources, fishing mainly, it might affect the feeding rates of the species. Especially Libya was, in 2010, was on the fringe to sign a fishing treaty with the EU. So we're repeating the bad stories of Morocco in fishing, and thankfully, again, the revolution have stopped that. I don't know the new authorities what they are thinking, but there is some civil societies are pushing towards not signing any new treaties with especially with the Italians and the Spanish, because they will wipe out everything in 2 years. Italian fishermen, we know them. The other thing is the oil spill threat is threatening the main site, which is Gara, because nearby is Azwitina terminal, the oldest oil terminal in Libya. And so far, thanks to the good management in the Azwitina terminal, we didn't have any major oil spills. But if something happened, it won't affect the nest site because they are in the top of the island, but it will affect the feeding and the roosting of other terns in the other species in the area. So disturbance by locals, municipal work in Benghazi, oil spills. So the 3 sites are really having a very various types of threats, and without a legal protection of the sites itself, without a system of protected areas and national park in Libya in place, this species or this population might facing a very unknown future. The present work I'm doing is I'm trying to use the genetic markers to identify phylogenetic relationships between the subpopulations in Libya and the nearby Hurghada Islands in the Red Sea, and also the Persian Gulf population. So you have So far I've seen a very unique haplotype diversity for Libya and for Egypt and for the Persian Sea, Persian Gulf. But this analysis is still in the early phases, and because of shortage of funds, we cannot extend it that much. And I'm collaborating with an institute at the University of Constance in Germany to study the stable isotopes ratios in the feathers of breeding lesser crested terns. And we desperately need some information about Bray stable isotopes from West Africa. If you know anybody who worked on fish used by seabirds or by terns in West Africa, I will be appreciating giving me the information. And also, I have drafted a proposal to the Critical Ecosystem Partnership Fund to track lesser crested tern. This is my dream, to track lesser crested tern from breeding to wintering sites, not only to know where they winter, but also to know which flyway stopping over sites are important through the journey of this species, because really we don't know that much about the coast of Algeria and the coast of Morocco for this species. I would like to thank the ABC again, BOC and NHM for the meeting, and my supervision team, Professor Mike Elliott in Hull University. I'd like to thank again BirdLife Malta and INSF Italy for the rings, and my colleagues in EGA, the Environment General Authority, and the staff, especially in Benghazi and Baida, for their volunteering to help me in this field work. Thank you very much.